So, Shaun, we were just discussing all the fame and notoriety of your local pub that you're having to kick out celebrities because they're annoying you.
Well, I'm getting kicked out. That's what's annoying me.
Yeah, yeah.
They come in with their entourages. So there you go. Yeah. Used to be kind of the drinking spot for Hillary Clinton when she was in town.
What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So
That's insane, dude.
the wonderful Hillary. So.
That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, so it's just you and me today. Joe is flying somewhere today because he's a genius and he scheduled a flight.
Well, looking in the weather in the States, is he trying to fly? Is it bad down your way or?
There's a ton of flights getting canceled all over the States, and people are not able to get to where they wanted to be for their holidays. So I find it a little nuts that he's trying to do that, but you know, whatever makes him happy, I guess.
Yep.
Whatever. I think he's trying to get down to Miami, so he has a better odds because there's no snow. But I don't know. I'm in Georgia, and in Georgia, the temperatures here for us in Fahrenheit are in the teens tonight for the next 4 or 5 days at night. So for us, that's brutally cold. Nothing for you, but you know, for us.
Yeah, Ireland is normally quite temperate. I mean, we got some cold weather last week, and I think there's some June next week. But I mean, normally Ireland is like cold, wet. But not cold, like not. You know, I have a sister who lives in Boston, and I know it's minus 4,000 degrees or some shit. Like, why would you bother? You know.
I saw some footage yesterday of a backup, a massive backup in a wind and snowstorm in Wyoming, and it was already with the wind chill like 40 degrees below Fahrenheit, which is just insanity. And they were like telling everybody, don't shut off your car, you will be a dead person, because their cars couldn't move, they're just stuck on the highway. So anyway, I have not even looked at the market today. I have not a clue what's going on because I'm at my parents' house and you know, doing the Christmas thing. So.
Oh, we're coming off a couple of points.
Okay.
Basically, we're just chopping. I don't personally think, unless something like Binance blows up, I don't think we're going to see any big moves until the new year. That's kind of my view of it. I think we'll chop along. You know, Wall Street's off a couple of points. You know, point and a half, couple of points. I think Bitcoin is down 1% nearly, and Ethereum 1.2 or something like that. So,
all right. Yeah.
But it's just chopping. There's like nothing of significance at all. To be honest, we haven't had a significant move since the FTX implosion. We're just kind of sideways, chop, stealing money from people.
I was going to say, which is good for you, right?
Thank you.
I mean, that's what works for you. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so painful. I mean, I do try to do some serious volume on these things, and there's just no volume going on. It's Christmas week.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a surprise can always happen, but I think the surprise here, if anything significant happened before the new year, would be the surprise, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Because people can look at, percentages. It's always better to look at a chart, in my opinion. Look at the daily chart. I mean, yeah, actually, there you go. You just look at the daily chart. That's FTX, and basically nothing of interest is happening since then. That's just shopping. So, if you're just looking at percentages, it looks great. It looks terrible. It looks great. But the reality is we're just in the middle of this kind of range that we formed, which again is classic. Normally what happens is we get a move, we kind of fuck around. As you can see here, we can fuck around for a long time. We get a move. And that's the story of the whole market: down, sideways, down, sideways, down, sideways, down, sideways. Let's see what happens next.
All right. I was looking at, I saw this story. I didn't load a screenshot up of it, but the CEO of, have you ever heard of Paxful? I never even heard of it.
I haven't, yes. I'm aware of their work. I nearly sent them a bloody Christmas card after their recent news. If I could find the office address, bottle of champagne and a Christmas card.
That's hilarious, because what they did was the they decided that they were going to nanny state for their users and protect them from the evils of Ethereum. I think was the gist of what he used as
I
his
think, yeah, the
reasoning.
part was they were going to protect their 11 something thousand users from Ethereum.
Billion. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, we'll never agree on this. So, but I'm also, in a way, I do find it funny. It's a free world. Paxful can do what they want to do. If you want to buy Ethereum.
Yep.
It's their platform. They get to do with it as they will. My views on Ethereum are not a secret. So it was entertaining, if nothing else.
Yes, yes.
To somebody like me, virtue signaling maybe to a lot of us Bitcoiners.
Totally. He's like, you know what? I'm going all in on the Bitcoiners. I'm going to sign them up. I want to be the place. Is it an exchange? Is that what Paxful is?
From what I know, it's almost a bit. Now, again, I could be completely wrong, but I think it's slightly like local Bitcoins or something. Again,
peer-to-peer platform
for
to
some
buy and sell
reason,
Bitcoin.
I'd ended up following them ages ago on Twitter, so I just saw it. But I don't know. I mean, other interesting news. I don't know if you saw that the fake Satoshi got awarded 900k sterling, so about 1.1 million in costs.
I didn't see that
from Peter yesterday, which was completely expected because of, again, it's one of these things that I got involved with in comments with a few of the BSV people, and it's like it's a victory, even though the judgment, which Pedro did actually tweet out the full judgment. The judge literally underlined the word, not an exact quote, "Hey, Craig sued me, buddy," which was, Craig Wright has not underlined proven he's Satoshi. So the background of the case, for those who don't know, is that Peter McCormack rightly called, again, my views, not the show's views, just to be clear.
Yeah, I don't want to be sued today. You go ahead.
Rightly called Craig Wright a scammer, I think was the term. Craig and his daddy Alvin sued. They got a technical win of £1.
Right.
But the way Peter's lawyers had defended themselves, they had to retire a few defenses. So he ends up paying for Craig's lawyers for those defenses. In the substantive case, Craig is actually paying Pedro. So it's more of the same from Craig. It's like this horrible reality that if somebody takes you to court for defamation, even when you're right, which Peter is 100% in the right here, in my opinion, and I think anybody who read the judge's opinion, like we had with Hoodlenaut, like we had the case in Florida, that Craig was found to be lying, blah blah blah. Look, he is what he is. Of course, that doesn't, poor Peter still has to shell out about 1.1 million.
So Peter's basically covering attorney's fees for other defenses that he was using that he dropped, basically.
For Craig's lawyers in other defenses that were drops, as I understand it.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
So, which again, I suppose legally is understandable, and I think there's going to be a judgment of cost, but it's about 900k sterling. So that's it's a bit sad when the space gets this. Now, equally, I think that the Bitcoin community has rallied around Peter. It was one of the more cheerful mornings of my life to see that we do support our own in these things.
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure Peter will be okay in it, which is what really matters. Yeah,
absolutely.
Nobody should be have their lives ruined for telling the truth.
No, absolutely not. And look, the bottom line is that we all know what Craig is, and that Peter was right. The question, the weird thing about this is that he gets sued, and because he dropped defenses against the lawsuit in those courts that he actually has to
I
pay
could
the
be completely
fees.
wrong. I think his initial defense, which is unachievable, that, and again, I could be wrong, but I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. I think his initial defense was that they could prove he wasn't Satoshi, and that's an almost impossible thing to you're proving a negative, yeah.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the costs got burned. And no, Shizzy, Craig is actually Satoshi, yeah. Not.
Well, do you think they do these? Do you think this is all ego, or do you think this is to keep up the whole keep all of their cult in line by suing to protect the image? I mean, it's so ridiculous, man. This
One
shit
of
is.
the many
What's the deal
things.
with that relationship with his sugar daddy? I don't get that whole thing either.
One of the many interesting things. It's the whole judgment. I think it's 18 pages. Actually, worth a read. A lot of it is just judgeness. But one of the interesting things, and again under UK law, the initial ruling is actually given as a draft to both parties under embargo. Okay. So under embargo, they're not allowed to say anything about it. But of course, Craig being Craig went off into one of his Slack groups and decided to say, that sure, spending 4 million to get back a pound may not look great, bloody, bloody, bloody. So look, here's the thing about it. It's to stop. Ultimately, it's just bullying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's to stop people like me, which won't work, going, look, you're just a fucking scam artist, Craig Wright. Yeah, it won't work. Come and
Exactly. Get it. Totally get it. Yeah, I think that's what their goal
again,
is.
not the views of the show. People. I'm fucking views me.
Not the views of the show. If you,
let's do it, yeah.
Yeah, please contact Shaun directly if you have concerns, Craig. But yeah, look, I mean, I haven't been afraid to say that the man can't prove that he's Satoshi because he isn't, and so at the end of the day, this whole, I think a lot of people have been harmed by what they did and what they have put out to market. So, and you actually think, so on our topic for today, that we were going to discuss kind of the whole maxi approach and attitude. And let me get the wording exactly how we talked about it in our chat. Why Bitcoiners mostly want nothing to do with the rest of the crypto space, why we view ourselves as above it, and why we won't and should not join forces on legislation, regulation, etc. i.e., what's in the mind of a maxi. Let's start there, man.
Yeah, because like I've heard you say, and not just you, a lot of people say this in the past, is that, and again, as a fundamental starting point to this, I don't really care about regulation. Yeah, I don't really care about any of that horseshit. I think that Warren and Clinton have got it right. Okay, that this is an attack on the dollar. Okay, and I think there's a dishonesty in not accepting that. Now, I don't think an awful lot of Warren or Clinton, but I think they've called it right. This is what Bitcoin is about: is an attack on the dollar, and they they treat it. I can't answer that.
Niblets says, I step away to fix a coffee, and now Craig isn't Satoshi, is nothing real. And Eamon said he can prove it. He just needs to transfer some of Satoshi's coins. Of course, he can't do that because he's a scammer. Oh, Eamon going all in too.
Eamon, you and me will be in court together, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe you can jointly defend.
But yeah, so again, there's, when you view the mission of what Bitcoiners like me, and again, there's Bitcoin, and then there's people who have views in it. I think my view is certainly, shared amongst a lot of Bitcoiners I know, which is, look, we're not in this game to play with government regulations, because you might rightly say, and undoubtedly, that the US is the biggest market in the world, it's the most influential, it's the only remaining superpower, blah, blah, blah. And I go, yeah, but if we play this regulatory game in the US, we've got to play it in Europe. We're basically allowing we're missing the whole point of this. The whole point of this is permissionless. Yes. So whatever the American government wants to do, or the Iraqi government, or one of the other, I don't know, 180 governments around the world want to do, I don't give a fuck. And that's an honest statement. So there's this first thing about why won't. Now, that's not, there are also Bitcoiners in the US who are, as you know, funding their own efforts with respect to this and so on. That's of absolutely no interest to me whatsoever. I'm not one of these Bitcoiners who care whether ETH is a security or not a security, or Ripple is a security or not a security. But when you look at the political efforts of the rest of the space outside of Bitcoin in the US specifically, there's always this question of why aren't we joining forces? Why aren't we picking commonality with, you know, with this stuff? And I've said this to you before in a telegram, and probably because it's the written word, is that I look at coin market cap and I go, there's 21,000 crypto assets. Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure that when you say you want the crypto community to get together and, you know, fight the good fight for regulation or whatever it is, you don't equally mean all 21,000 crypto assets, including Hex and all of this and this and this. So there's this fundamental point of difference between people like me and you that is only where we draw the line. So in other words, you don't want to be having Richard Hart support the case for DeFi. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want Vitalik Buterin. Yeah. We're just drawing the lines in different places.
I like that.
And that's why it is. So, you know, this idea of trying to lump everything together, because the truth is that when you lump it all together, we all know an awful lot of it. We can disagree about things like ETH and all this stuff, you know, that's fine. But we all know there's such a large pile of steaming shit there that we're all drawing lines. Yeah. It's only a question of where our lines are drawn.
Got it. So for you, the line is there's nothing else worth talking about except Bitcoin. And so fighting in unison with someone who is an ETH maxi, or fighting in unison with someone who loves ETH and loves Bitcoin has no value, because ultimately you don't care about the existence of anything except Bitcoin.
Well, I go back further and say, first of all, I don't believe, again, you know, I'll state the case very clearly. You know, Bitcoin should be dark money. Yes, Bitcoin is trustless, it's permissionless, and so on. It's uncensorable. And by dark money, I mean that, again, the simple example, I can buy a pint of Guinness in Dublin with Bitcoin, and that's legal. If I try to do that in Iraq, it's illegal. So in Ireland, it's white money for that purpose, and in Iraq, it's black money. So if we don't just accept that whatever I use my Bitcoin for, in some part of some jurisdiction in the world, it's going to be considered an illegal transaction. So this isn't a game that has any benefit in terms of a truly global permissionless currency. And that unfortunately does open up. It can be used for bad as well as good. I mean, you know, laughably, if you're a criminal and you're using Bitcoin, you're just a stupid criminal. Because it's the most traceable money in the world.
Right.
Okay. So there's a fundamental starting point, which is going, I don't give a shit about your regulations. I just don't. Yeah. Because if I give a shit about your regulations, again, where do I draw the line? Do I draw the line at, I don't know, Finland's regulations? Or do I draw the line at Russia's regulations? Or where is this line where I'm going, yeah, okay, this country is currently good, and I'm not arguing against the US but in any way, yeah? But like, who the fuck knows what it's like in 10 years? So why play this game? We're here. Our mission is to remove the control of money from government, and that includes your government, my government, and every other government in the world. Therefore, regulations, fuck you. So that's a starting principle. And secondly, we're not all the same. So if there is a case, which primarily the case is always about price as well, yeah? It's going, oh my God, if we get a spot ETF, it'll be great for Bitcoin or crypto in general, or if Ripple win this, or ETH is proven to be a commodity and blah, blah. And again, you can't view the space, even you as one of the most open people in the space, can't view the space as a space because you're not going to bring Hex and BitConnect along with you.
Correct.
So we're all drawing lines. My lines are drawn very firmly, as I said, in what I think is the only real innovation in the space, which is Bitcoin, and the only thing with sustainable value, that is Bitcoin. And also from the point of view of I do believe ETH is captured. I believe it will get captured more, and that's it, man. And that's where this thought process goes. Yeah.
Got it. Now I'm going to take two paths with this.
Yep.
So the first one is going to be my take on this. If only Bitcoin existed, or I were a Bitcoin maxi, right?
Yep.
And maybe my philosophy would be different, but based on my current philosophy, my approach to this would be this. I understand your perspective and point of view that there's this permissionless money and its goal is to replace government money. And I agree with that. And that's what I want. And that needs to be the mission. But from my perspective, as a guy who's been out marketing and selling products and yearning for adoption of those products to make a living, I'd have another take on it. And my take on it is this, is that our end goal may be replacing everything with Bitcoin if I was a Bitcoin maxi today. But at the end of the day, more rapid adoption, more infrastructure adoption, more user adoption, more legitimacy is possible at a faster pace to get rid of the evils of government money if we in fact can push regulators to the place that we want them in terms of acceptance of or use of Bitcoin. And so from my perspective, that is the true value of dealing with regulators. Is I think it gets us there faster. I think it gets us to adoption faster. And it makes it easier for us to replace government money because if you think about the decentralized capabilities of Bitcoin, it doesn't matter how co-opted it may seem from a regulatory perspective. If from a regulatory perspective, we can gain more traction with end users, then I think that it fulfills the mission faster. Would be my argument.
I don't disagree with that. Again, I'm not again, you're looking at it from where the country you're sitting in. Yeah. Okay. And I get it. And look, you guys.
No, I mean that from a perspective of every country, and I mean a concerted effort. Look, at the end of the day.
Are we going to do this in North Korea? Would be my answer. My question.
Well, of course not. I mean, there are limits, obviously, and I get it. You want to draw the line of none. My perspective is, if get into every country we possibly can with the most lenient regulatory framework, so that we get faster adoption and more worldwide adoption. I realize that's a big job. It takes a lot of money. It's a lot of hassle, a lot of bullshit, everything else. But at the same time, a lot of the countries in the world will take the regulatory lead from the United States, right? And so there is some value in the US, UK, and a few other major countries being the first targets of our regulatory push, if we were just talking about Bitcoin, to get that adoption level, because from all of those countries comes the regulatory frameworks for much of the civilized world. And so my perspective is that actually results in more adoption for Bitcoin.
My concern is that if you take that approach, is the compromise that happens along the way. Okay, so again, play out some game theory here, and you go, okay, so America says, I don't know, Ethereum isn't a security, it's ultrasound money, whatever the narrative is, yeah. And then, oh, cool, okay, then people start using Ethereum to transmit money to Iraq, North Korea, okay. All of a sudden, as a regulated thing, you're inside the circle. All of a sudden, they go, no, hang on a minute, no, you can't do that because we have sanctions. And then you just end up in the same place as any other financial instrument. Okay, so again, my fundamental view on hardcore technical innovations, and I think Bitcoin, if you were to look at its technical achievement, standing on the shoulders of giants and all of that, and thank you, Craig Wright, for your innovation. Dude, fucking all hail, mate. When you look at these types of technical innovations, there are always attempts to co-opt them into the existing mechanisms, the existing regimes, and yet the true technical innovations displace what's there. So
right.
in many ways, there was a great documentary years and years and years ago when I got into Bitcoin, and it actually put it beautifully. It said, look, strangely enough, money is the only area that technology has never really disrupted till now. Sure, we've got all of, my Wi-Fi or my fucking, PIN cards and all of this kind of bullshit. Yeah, but the fundamental thing that is money has never been disrupted till now. So again, my view is I'm not against people trying to seek regulations. I would, again, we are all going to draw lines if we group together. Yeah, that's something that isn't acknowledged. We're not all in this together. Yeah, my lines are a lot tighter than your lines. Okay, but to not acknowledge we're all drawing lines, okay, is there's an intellectual dishonesty about that. Okay, my line, number one line, everything else. Okay, your line could be number 1,000 line wherever we draw the lines, but we're all right. There is no space to defend, and ultimately, again, we're in the business of removing the control of money from these people, because what we see is what these people are doing. All governments, as far as I know, is they're trying to use the technology of money now to even further repress us with CBDCs and so on. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I don't see it as evolution. I see it as revolution. That's honestly, and again, I'm also I don't know if we're going to win. Yeah, but it's a fight worth having.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin genuinely believe this. I'm not just saying this to be controversial. I genuinely believe that Bitcoin is 100% stands alone in this regard. I don't think there is anything out there. Everything out there for me is a compromise too far. Into when I see L1s that are funded by VCs, okay, when I see proof of stake, when I see the absolute essence of not thinking through, because the reason, look, it is an interesting experiment, don't get me wrong. As far as I'm concerned, it's a failed experiment. Jesus, I could be wrong, okay? But all that I can see with ETH and everything beneath it are things that nobody has thought through in any way what their response to external pressure is. And Bitcoin, because of where it came from, which was, dark corners of the internet from some very weird motherfuckers, okay, to whom we should be grateful. Again, thank you, Craig. He won a case, he got a pound, come on.
There you go.
Comes from a place of being designed for the purpose, and in my opinion, nothing else does.
So I definitely understand where you're coming from. And I think from a decentralization purity perspective, Bitcoin is the furthest along. And it's impossible to argue anything else on that topic for me. I can't argue that. I can argue that I think that others will get there or could get there. My point of view on this, and I would hope that even if I were a semblance of a Bitcoin maxi, that I wouldn't be a maxi in the current sense of the word, because I'm a firm believer that having worked in technology now for 26, 27 years, I'm a firm believer that the critical component to this innovation continuing to growing to being adopted is competition. And I believe that as a capitalist and as a technologist. And I think it is a danger to Bitcoin for it to stand alone. I,
You see,
I
I think why I think I would agree with you there, except I think you're misrepresenting what Bitcoin actually is.
okay, go ahead.
So, Bitcoin to me is like TCP/IP. Yeah, it's that level. Okay, somebody coming along and going, here's TCP/IP 3 or super TCP/IP, or I think if we were going to ultra TCP/IP to give it an S thing, and going, no, these are not. That's not the level of competition. Again, I would consider Bitcoin as a discovery, not an invention.
Interesting.
And I genuinely mean that. So I'm going like, you discover gold, and then somebody discovers fool's gold over here, but there's only one discovery of gold, and you can take that gold and you can utilize it in different ways. So I don't genuinely mean this. None of these things will ever be and have ever been competition to Bitcoin in my mind. Okay. I think I view it a lot closer to being a discovery than an invention, and that I think the innovation and the competition is in what it's used for. And I think and the whole altcoin space is distractionary to that purpose, because it's just get rich quick schemes.
Yeah, so I obviously disagree with you that it's just get rich quick schemes. I think there are plenty of people building in Ethereum and other parts of this crypto world that are not primarily just here to get rich quick. I think there are people that have strong opinions about what's being built. They believe in freedom. They believe in capitalism. They want money to be out of government's hands. So I can't ever accept that kind of broad stroke. They're all scammers and
Yeah.
they all want to get rich quick.
Which again, that's a bit too far from my perspective, from
Okay.
what I stated. Yeah, but again, I got quite disgusted at the space this year. Okay, like genuinely to the point where I went, I don't even ever want to be fucking involved anymore. The absolute truth. Yeah, literally, I was, and it wasn't just it's not the Do Kwon's SBF CZ stuff. I mean, that's just grift. That kind of, I laugh at that and tend to make a few quid out of it. So that's okay. It was more the attitude of the people engaged. So I think I tweeted something today where there's now 83,000 people working in crypto full time. Okay.
Right.
Of which about 50% are in the trading broker end of it, and then the rest split across NFTs. But what genuinely disgusts me about what happened in this cycle is the complete disregard for the fundamentals of the space. That's what I mean when I say dilute. Yeah. So
Yeah.
And in other words, the whole game, which again, I like yourself, Brad, I lived through the .com boom, and the race to market and the race for funding and all this kind of stuff is great, but ultimately the complete disregard for the very basics of what I got involved for nearly got me out. Strangely enough, it was only the response to a couple of things. One, private, a friend of mine who's starting helping other people in the space. And I go, this is the crypto I remember. This is the crypto I love. And the Bitcoiners' response to Pedro's position. Okay. And I mean, there are still good people out there. But everything else I see, again, everything is a big word, is just disregarding everything, just disregarding the fundamentals. It's kind of, again, I use this term jokingly, and I don't mean it as a joke. It's technological masturbation. Yeah, my swap's better than your swap. Well, how about we just stand back for a minute here and go, remember what we're at, trustless, permissionless, the basics.
Right.
So I'm not, and to go back to, not everybody in the space is a grifter. There are grifters, of course there are. Like, this is the Wild West, the SBFs, the CZs, the Do Kwons, you know, they're all out there, whatever. That doesn't disgust me. That's just human nature. What upsets me about the space is the good people ignoring or getting so drowned out in all of this noise that the basics are thrown out. And that's what I mean by the dilution of that a lot of this stuff is just diluting core value. And I think that we will pay the consequences of that with CBDCs. And I think we'll pay real life consequences with that. And again, that's why I always separate Bitcoin and everything else, because I don't see anything else. That's going to sound fucking, it's going to sound like, Jesus-like or something. I don't see anything else with any real virtue.
So I think I would not necessarily give you Bitcoin as a protocol layer at a communication level like TCP/IP. I would probably call it more like a level above that. Like I don't want to use Gopher, but it's the first one popping into my head. Right. Whereas it is a protocol, but it's not a core communication level. It can't replace a core communication level. But I understand your argument.
I would say it's the communication of money.
Okay.
It's the standard for the communication of money.
But everything else on top, yeah. So I would assume you're separating everything else on top of that. So the actual Bitcoin as money and the Lightning Network and anything else that gets built above that is not part of the core protocol?
No, that's wonderful. That to me, again,
Satoshis are separate.
Yeah, in other words, the real innovation, the 1,400 companies building on Lightning is happening there. Yeah,
right.
In other words, Bitcoin is not without competition. There's companies out there killing each other, okay, to race, to use, to innovate on the other levels of Bitcoin. Yeah,
right.
And again, because I'm in the game so long, like I remember Ethereum as Bitcoin 2.0. Yeah, that was
right. That was the pitch.
That was the first narrative. And Zcash and God, some Doge, to so many of them, and I'm going, look, I cannot have any respect for any of these because they ignore the fundamentals. They like so completely throw out the fundamentals in a world that is becoming frightening to me from a money perspective. They're of no interest. I can the most generous I get about them is maybe they're interesting experiments to see what Bitcoin will do in the next 5 years and the next 10 years. That's when I'm in a good mood.
Yeah,
and I think of these 83,000 people who are now full-time in crypto, which is a lot smaller number than I thought it would be, by the way, but I think the Block published some research on it. I just go, I think the vast majority of them have missed the whole point. That a lot of the projects I see are about institutional engagement. They're, all of these things I'm going, this is not how the game is played. This is not what we're about. And I want no part of it. And it is unimplied, it's unwanted inflation to the space and distractionary. And as I said, to me, quite degrades the space completely. Because the vision of Bitcoin is noble.
I think there are plenty of people among those 83,000 that also have noble vision, and there are also plenty that are shithead scumbags. But and look, there are shithead scumbags in the Bitcoin world too. So that's to be given as well. I think. Look, I mean, we're not going to solve we're not going to kumbaya on this topic today, most likely.
But it's Christmas, man. Come on.
All right, I accept everything you say, Shaun.
Okay, I'm ending the call here.
But I do think that, look, I don't think you're somebody that disagrees that people innovating can help drive Bitcoin forward or the other layers that are innovating on Bitcoin. I think we just disagree about where it should happen. And I think that Bitcoin can always learn from everything else that gets built out there, bad and good. And so I think we can agree on that.
Decentralization thing, which, the path to decentralization, because I've thought, we'd started discussing that a year and a half ago, 2 years. Yeah. And look, Bitcoin started centralized. Of course it did.
Yeah.
I also think it may just be blind luck that Satoshi left. I think it may very well have just been a pure thing. Maybe Satoshi died, or I don't know, got put in jail or whatever. Or maybe he really is Jesus and can avoid being the world's richest man, right? Or maybe he really is Craig, okay, and
God help us all.
to all of it, okay. So I think you can't discount there's probably an element of luck in Bitcoin being decentralized. But here's a fundamental difference, yeah. When Bitcoin was decentralized, it was valueless. Okay, so when I look at other projects and I go, look, they've raced to be worth 500 million. You know what humans are really fucking bad at? Giving up control of shit that's worth a lot.
Sure, absolutely.
And so I think that look, I will never argue with you that Bitcoin started central. Of course, that's just a fact, yeah.
Right.
I do think there could have been, I could be wrong, a stroke of luck that it became decentralized by the loss of Satoshi. But fundamentally, I think it was easy to decentralize because it was without value.
That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense.
And I think a big concern, again, back to human nature, because there are scumbags in Bitcoin as in every walk of life, yeah, is that once these things are on this massive race to value, okay, people are less and less and less and less likely to give away the reins of power. And again, I think that's because everybody's been talking about it for so long, and I could be wrong here. Maybe somebody can tell me there is this project that actually did it, but I ain't seen it.
Well, I will tell you, there are some projects that are doing it just because the founders can't take it anymore. So it may happen just because they're in pain. But, I get what you're saying. I totally agree. We need to catch up on some of these comments because they've been flying. Eamon said, let's fucking go. Niblet said earlier, Eamon, maybe Craig is Gerald Cotton. Some of the Quadra CX wallets are moving now. Yeah, I just saw that yesterday, that they're actually taking their Bitcoin and putting it in, what's the washer for Bitcoin?
Oh yeah, Wasabi probably.
Yeah. So they're laundering their Bitcoin out. Somebody.
Which is entirely traceable through Wasabi.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the dead guy in India. I don't know. Cotton. Yeah. Shizzy says you can't stop the unstoppable. That's why proof of work is so important. He also said, I think Shaun would like Zen crypto. It follows all of the first principles of crypto. Inflation is just insane for the first few years. I'm not.
I read Shizzy's Substack on it.
Okay.
I didn't understand it, but you really need to get Shizzy on the show, man, because he knows.
He's coming Friday. Cool. I mean, Monday.
Yeah.
Day after Christmas.
Yeah, because I read it, didn't quite understand it. It was at the old Zen. There was an old Zen back in 2018, Shizzy. I don't know if it's the same one or a new Zen, if it's the same one or not.
I don't know. We'll ask him about it on Monday. Eamon said, I see why Joe skipped today.
Because I'd just be sitting here telling Joe, the US, your empire's over, man. It's pointless. And he'd be getting fucking upset about it, yeah.
I love it. Euphoric says not all domestic regulators act the same. Yeah, I agree that you can't say they're all going to do the exact same thing. But I think that the majors set the guidelines for a lot of the smaller ones to follow. But, maybe they'll all say, fuck you, US, UK, whoever, we're doing it our own way. Niblet says people in failed states like Venezuela had the option to use Bitcoin or any crypto to replace domestic fiat, but opted for USDs instead. Best case for BTC replacing fiat, yet it hasn't. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's perfectly understandable because most people live in the shitcoin world. They see all this stuff happening fast, yeah?
Right.
Bitcoin is going to be a fuck all use to anybody in Venezuela or Nigeria or Africa for 5 to 10 years. Yeah, it just isn't. And again, the answer to that are stable coins, yeah? So, expecting somebody in one of these places to, use Bitcoin or any crypto, okay, as a means when they go to the shop and it's dropped 20%, yeah, all of a sudden that's 20% less food for their family. There's a naivety about that. Again, it's time frame. Okay, the price of Bitcoin will stabilize probably in 5 to 10 years. Okay. I have a long-term chart because I know I'm always bearish. But before we go, I want to give you my Christmas fucking view of where Bitcoin is actually going in the future. And
Awesome.
It will stabilize at some point, and then it becomes useful. But that's why I'm a big proponent of stable coins on Lightning. And again, there are some issues behind that, again, about, control and so on. But that's a kind of a side topic. Yeah. Look, expecting the third world to use Bitcoin is an obnoxious first world view. Yeah. It just is. Yeah. And you can apply that to any crypto. Yeah.
Right.
The dollar is king of the castle. And if you want to send money home to your family in some part of the world, I would say send dollars, send stables, whatever. Yeah. Because Bitcoin isn't there yet. Okay. At all. But that doesn't mean it isn't heading in the right, it doesn't have the right trajectory. So big fan of stables on Lightning, huge fan, some issues with them about centralized control, blah, blah. All of these are resolvable. And it's onboarding people. Yeah.
Right.
The vision that I would have is that stables on Lightning offers people an immediate solution, onboards them into crypto, and serves a real need for them. And ultimately, as the price of Bitcoin stabilizes, which, look, it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years away. Yeah. But nothing about this is fast.
Right. And it's not just the stabilization of price, right? Then there's this massive psychological shift that has to happen for people to stop thinking in dollars, right? To stop comparing value in US dollars or their own local currency. And so I think that is something that by its very nature requires even more time. I absolutely agree.
I mean, if I'm in a bad part of the world and I want to, I want to go and buy something, I can guarantee you the dollar is a better instrument than any crypto right now.
Yep.
But again, that's not something that's not technologically fixable. Yeah, that's just the nature of something that's still in price discovery. Yeah,
that's right. What's the price that ends up at stable?
Oh, well north of like final price. I think its stability, it's got to be in the 5 to 10 million range.
Nice, very nice.
But very then nice. Again, if we win, and the other thing I'll say, look, there's no guarantee that we win. This is the toughest fight on earth.
Sure.
Again, I come back to it. We're fighting every government, every financial institution, every regulator, basically everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that isn't something that's recognized by a lot of the rest of the industry, and that's kind of my slight disgust at the space this year. It wasn't SBF, it was just this: we're in the rush to move your coin market cap or to have more TVL. The very basics of what make this space actually important, to the planet, are just out the fucking window.
I get it. That makes sense.
That disgusts me a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah. Getting back to the priorities.
Yeah.
Euphoric says all UK regulations on crypto so far have favored the corporations and institutions. They say they are making the UK a crypto hub, but not being truthful about who it's meant to benefit.
But, I have a simple answer to that. I mine, whether it's legal or illegal. I run nodes, whether it's legal or legal. I use Bitcoin every day, whether it's legal or legal. Fuck you, regulators.
But Shaun, they are.
Sincerely,
yeah, no, I get it. I mean,
you're not old enough, and neither am I. But there was a time when the states prohibited alcohol, didn't stop alcohol. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. No. Well, look,
there was a time in the states where slavery was legal.
Dope was illegal my entire life until the last few years.
I'm assuming it never stopped you, mate. Because it
never stopped me. No, never stopped me. No, did not actually. No. Eamon says, but Shaun, they already say that if it was regulated, that would be known and expected rather than those insane shocks to the system. Even if it's regulated a certain way, the code shouldn't be changed to exclude all other options. He said, I agree it's TCP/IP, but many maxis don't want the internet to be built on top of this protocol. Two biggest innovations in technological masturbations, the fleshlight and blockchains.
I don't know. I was going to go radio and whatever.
That's
Yeah,
fucking hilarious. The fleshlight. The sad thing is we all know what it is. That's hilarious, dude. That's funny as shit. Uh, Anything else you want to say about this topic, Shaun?
No, like that was it again, because maxis get a bad rap, and probably again just for you guys who have to suffer with this on Twitter, and there are an awful lot of toxic people, but the level of I think we just look at it so fundamentally differently that there is unlikely ever to be agreements between us. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that regard, because while our objectives may be the same, we don't think you guys stand a snowball chance in hell win, and we do believe that fundamentally you're damaging the space. Okay, you can agree or disagree with that, but it explains an awful lot of the vileness out there, and it's Twitter. Twitter is just a fucking toxic place to start with. I mean, there isn't a lot of love on Twitter for anybody.
Yep. Well, the beauty of it, from my perspective, or my selfish have it any way I want perspective, is that I get to celebrate Bitcoin innovation, right? I get to be all in and play both sides of the coin because I think there's innovation that can happen on both sides. But I certainly, I would have zero problem with Bitcoin winning out. Right, I would have zero problem with seeing layers of innovation on top of Bitcoin and Lightning and everything else. So from my perspective, I mean, I don't think it'll necessarily happen in the near term, but from my perspective, like I said earlier, I want competition amongst all of this so that everyone feels the pressure to innovate and make it easier, make it better, make it more private, make it whatever, so that at the end of the day, we replace government money. And
again, give people control of their money. I mean, it's
exactly.
It's almost a human right in my view. Yeah.
Yep.
Is the government telling me what I can and can't do with my money is so fundamental. It's kind of free speech-esque. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, a bit like free speech. It's not a simple problem. Yeah, it's easy for me to sit here and go do anything you want with your money until the guy goes off and buys a thermonuclear device with Bitcoin. I'm going, yeah, maybe not that.
But here's what I don't want them to do. I don't want them fucking protecting me from losing my money. That's what I don't want. And if we could just start there on freedom, stop trying to protect me from losing my money.
And again, that's why. That's why a core and a fundamental design premise that I think the vast majority of the space is completely missed is our government attack vectors.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and because they don't see it coming. Yeah. Or whatever, or the VCs that are funding them are going, no, actually, or for whatever reasons. And again, this is the bit where I go, I think we're losing the fundamental principles here, which are, to me, why I even turned on a computer in 2010. Yeah, what certainly wasn't to make money. Yeah, right. Trust me. Yeah, it was this fucking nirvana where the government couldn't tell me what I could do with my money, whether I was doing good or bad is a different matter. Yeah, they can regulate that in different ways. I shouldn't be able to own a thermonuclear device. Okay, whether I bought it with dollars or Bitcoin isn't the issue.
Right.
And so on. So, and again, it's a perspective of going, I'm sitting here in my fucking penthouse, with more fucking money than I know what to do with. Okay, it's not about me. It's about the kid in Aleppo.
Sure.
Yeah. So people need to kind of, go, if this is truly to be the basis, whether that's the rest of crypto, I seriously doubt it. I could be wrong. Yeah. Is that if you're not thinking in those terms, if you're so tied up in your own wealth class and your own country and your own regulators, you've missed the whole point of it. And I just seen way too much of that.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I think we should end on that note, and that's because that's a
do you want a Christmas present of where I think Bitcoin's going to go? I'm sick of being a motherfucking bear, man. If you want to share that screen.
You want the chart up? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was sharing this with some of my bear buddies, and they were going, look, I'm a big Elliott Waves fan, and people tend to despise it, but this is Bitcoin from the dawn of time. It's done this perfect thing. I think we are, look, the bottom isn't in my opinion. We're getting close in time, maybe April next year. But my belief is the next cycle, we're going to hit at least around 200K. And that ultimately, we're going to be probably north, by the time we do these 3 more cycles, we're going to be well north of 500K.
I can't see the timelines on that. Where I know you can't hold specific, but I mean, kind of generally, where are you looking at?
I mean, we were discussing it with a few of my trader buddies. I mean, what did we think the maximum price in 2023 was? And I think two of the 3 went 20s, in their 20s. Okay, depressing fuckers that they are. One went laser eyes 100. I'm very confident that we'll hit an ATH next year.
Nice.
I think we're gonna go serious bull Q3, Q4. And I think what I would say to people is wait for a confirmed bottom, because I do think we're getting to the end of this fucking obnoxious thing, and that we will come back. Whether I'm talking Bitcoin, whatever happens, the altcoin space, I don't know. But yeah, like another 3-4 months, and I think we can start to get ready for the next part of the cycle. I would just say keep some powder dry. You'd be better buying a breakout of 20K in June than trying to catch a fucking knife at the minute.
Love that. Absolutely love that. That's beautiful. I love the positive vibes on this. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a long and painful bear market, and I think we've a few more shocks to come. But once all that crap's washed out, I mean, we're getting near in time and reasonably near in price, maybe 30 to 50% more to go down, where we can start looking forward to, I think, the start of a new bull run. And I think that I think everybody needs that. So don't lose the faith.
Yeah. And looking at this chart and thinking about how you think about this, one of the primary benefits to being a Bitcoin maxi is you don't have to fuck around with learning or looking at anything else. And again,
think about that. Absolutely true. I'm also a trader. I mean, I'm going to buy some shitcoins when I think
of course
the bottom's in, and I'm gonna hold them through, what I think is most of the cycle, and I'll dump them. I'll buy spot bags on them. I won't trade them. What they are, again, bit of advice for people who are not around that many cycles. I wouldn't preempt them. I would look for the ones that run hardest first and buy them, because typically in a bull run, the things that start to move are the ones that continue to move.
Nice. That's awesome. That's a great line. That's beautiful.
Again, if you're just in it for the money, which is all I would be doing with altcoins, is just buying them for money. So I don't think you need to be over analytic, because every cycle we've had a different narrative. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think there's plenty of time. And again, I think that works. Buy whatever's running hardest at the beginning and just hold it till the end. Not the very end. At the top of the fucking cycle, not the very end of the cycle. I'll get round tripped with a shitcoin. Come on.
That's beautiful. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I love your attitude. I love your approach. I love how much you're willing to share, and I love what you're trying to do in the world. So thank you very much for taking your
Thanks,
Thursday
guys,
with us
and
before
have
Christmas.
a great Christmas.
You as well, sir. You as well. And happy Hanukkah to all of those that celebrate that. Thank you, Niblets, Euphoric, Amen, Shizzy. I think that's the group today. Appreciate you guys and love you. Appreciate that you're here with us and commenting and sharing. And Shizzy will be on next Monday. Joe and I will be back. Well, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see if Joe's still a no-show. I don't know if he can take the heat. Maybe I'll just have Shaun come back on and do it again.
I'll be in the club tomorrow, mate. You do not want me with a few
Oh
beers.
no! Can you get on with Bono and Russell Crowe while you're there? Maybe Hillary's
I
around.
hope they fucked off because they're in there. I'm not going into it.
You got to go in, man. Let's have a chat about crypto with them or Bitcoin. Sorry,
Yeah.
that
Russell
would be
Crowe is
fun to
the
show.
kind of guy you haven't chatted with anything about. It normally ends in violence.
Yeah, so you guys know what I'm talking about. Shaun's local pub actually turns out to be the watering hole of the rich and famous as well. So he loses his stool to Russell Crowe, Hillary Clinton, and some others. So he's a little irked that he can't be in his pub right now because it's taken over by the paparazzi and the famous. So. Anyway, Shaun, thank you. Everybody appreciate and love you. If you like what we're doing, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, click the thumbs up. It would greatly help us. And click subscribe and click the little bell so you get alerted when new episodes come out. Shaun, I appreciate you. We'll see you next Thursday if you're available. But thanks, man. That was great. That was fantastic.
Take it easy, guys. Have a good one.
Take care, everybody. We love and appreciate you. Happy